Did you know that leading up to the big game, Stanford fountains turn red? Did you know that Cal has more fight songs than recent wins? You're listening to the Daily Brew. From the Stanford Daily, this is Chloe Barreau
and Leily Rezvani. Here's a big game special featuring a roundtable from Daily staffers.
I can't get over the fact that Stanford is now one loss away from bowl elimination. And
welcome to the Football Roundtable. We're here on Big Game Week, 122nd Big Game. Stanford, Cal coming up this week. I'm Daniel Martinez-Krams, here with James Hemker and King Jemison. Just to get us started, what are our thoughts heading into this Big Game Week?
I just feel like everything is going in the wrong way fast for Stanford, and that axe that's been living in the farm for the last 9 years, I think it's in danger of passing back over to the other side of the bay.
I think this is going to be an exciting big game. We've got the 11th ranked offense in Stanford in the conference coming in and the 12th ranked offense in Cal. This is the classic stoppable force versus a movable object game. I think for a neutral fan, this is going to be a great slop fest to watch. And for every Cal and Stanford fan, they're going to be dying. Few years of their life are going to be taken off because of this one. It's going to be a real mess of a game.
So, a few keys. If we are going to say which way it's going to swing, what do we think would lead to that? If it is going to be, it's definitely going to be Stanford. What does Stanford need to do?
Stanford has the more explosive offense. So if Stanford's athletes on the outside are making plays, I mean, we've seen Simi Fehoko really burst out in the past few games. Michael Wilson and Connor Weddington both went over 100 yards against Washington State. Stanford has much better athletes at wide receiver. I think that they need to continue to use the freshman running backs, Nathaniel Pete and Austin Jones, more because they have a ton of explosiveness. And, Cam Scarlett's a great grinded out back as well. So if Stanford's going to win, it's going to be because they just make more plays over the course of the game, because I don't see Cal. They're not going to outscore you. Let's put it that way. They never can outscore you. But if Stanford loses the game, it's going to be because they give over a couple turnovers to the Bears and they just completely stall offensively, as we've seen at various points throughout the season.
I agree with King there. The offense, this is really going to be the offense's game to win. We've seen the defense is capable of keeping the game close, especially at Colorado. And the Washington State game was pretty close until the very end there. And so it's really going to be on the offense to find a way to make use of those opportunities and score points. Cal has a pretty good defense, but their offense is atrocious, especially with starting quarterback Jay Scarber's now out again and probably won't be playing for the big game. This is a perfect opportunity for Stanford to take control offensively.
Yeah, earlier in the season when Stanford had a few of its backups in at quarterback, we saw opposing teams really dial up pressure. And I think that was obviously very helpful. I think getting to Jack West in that UCLA game really messed up with his rhythm. So going on that, I think obviously the pass rush is going to be huge this game. It has been all season for Stanford, now facing a backup quarterback. What does the pass rush mean to Stanford?
On both sides, I think the pass rush is going to be critical. I mean, it's hard to ever understate how much the line of scrimmage matters, but listen, we don't need to go into the Jack West game because, God forbid, something happened to Davis Mills and Jack West has to come in. All hope is lost. Let's just put it that way, unless something has really changed since the UCLA game. But we've seen Stanford's offensive line, I think, be pretty good in pass blocking. I think they're giving their quarterbacks time, even with those three true freshmen on the line. So, they just need to keep doing what they're doing. I don't feel like Davis Mills was under a ton of duress throughout that Washington State game, although at times the pressure did get to him a little bit. But on the other side, I think Cal, you can totally shut down their offense if you can get in Devon Monster's head and get in the backfield over and over again. This is a team that wants to start their offense by running the ball. They have some good talent at running back, but if you can largely neutralize their run game and then frustrate Monster, he has shown a pretty striking tendency to make some bad decisions, and he's not an accurate quarterback. He's not an accurate quarterback to begin with, so if you get in the backfield, I think you can pretty much completely shut down the Cal offense because he's not finding open wide receivers.
Yeah, I agree with that. And additionally, to add to the point of the running back, something to watch for this week is that Cal's running back Christopher Brown Jr. left the game after taking a blow to the head in the first quarter. He returned to the sideline, but we'll have to see whether he's actually going to be game ready for next week. And if they don't have their running game, then their offense is really going to stall. Cal has the 12th best, which is really the last passing offense in the conference, averaging just 177 yards per game. And their rushing offense isn't much better, averaging 126 yards per game. So if we're able to get that party in the backfield started again, like we're always trying to get, then this is really going to be a tough game for Cal to put any points on the board.
King, you hinted at there with all the freshmen on the offensive line for Stanford, how much Stanford has struggled this year with injuries, and then freshmen especially coming in to fill in. Tavita Pritchard this week talked in practice how usually you'll use the kind of joke or just the tactic with backups that, like, you never know when you're next up, like this could be your time. Like he said that always that's been just something you keep in the back of your mind, never really a motivating factor. And this year it just hasn't been necessary because everyone knows that they're probably going to be coming in. So who are a few freshmen that have come in and really surprised you and made this season different?
I think that Walter Rouse, who had to step in at left tackle with Walker Little's injury literally in the first game against Northwestern, has done a fantastic job. And it's always tough to evaluate offensive linemen objectively without seeing the advanced stats, but just from the eye test, that guy performs at a really high level. We're not getting a ton of pressures from his side of the line. I think they like to run behind him, knowing that even with they usually prefer to run behind Foster Sorrell on the other side of the line, but they know that Walter Rouse is capable of holding his business. And obviously, at this point, we got 3 true freshmen starting on the offensive line, but Rouse has been there the longest, and I think is the guy that Stanford felt that they could count on most. That's why he was the first off the bench after Little's injury. And defensively, he hasn't had his best games recently, but I really love Caillou Blue Kelly, and he's been a big improvement at cornerback and a good complement to Paulson Adebo on the other side. Obviously now Adebo is out as well, so Obi Ipo back in the lineup. But I think that Caillou Kelly is capable of shutting down opposing wide receivers. He's got good ball skills, and I think we're going to start to see him rack up some more interceptions over the course of his career. He's not Paulson Adebo, but I do think he's a shifty cornerback and a guy that Stanford will be counting on in the next couple games, assuming Adebo does not return, to shut down opposing teams' top wide receivers.
Two of the freshmen that have really impressed me have been the running backs, Austin Jones and Nathaniel Pete. One of the big storylines coming into the season was Stanford has no more Christian McCaffrey. Stanford has no more Bryce Love. There's no one super explosive in the backfield. But I think these two freshmen, in the glimpses that we have seen of them, they are really good playmakers, and they have that stardom potential that so many past Cardinal running backs have had. I think mainly they've been hindered by the lack of an experienced offensive line, and so the fact that they've had to play behind their classmates who are other true freshmen has sort of hindered their ability, and as a result, Stanford's whole rushing offense has gone down. But I think with the line returning potentially next year and in the following years that come, these two guys are going to be really special players and help bring Stanford's rushing offense back to where it was.
Just talking about some of the content we're going to be putting out this week, which we're really looking forward to. Austin Jones is a local product. Grew up in Antioch, went to Bishop O'Dowd. We're also going to have a little bit of a feature on Stanford players from the Bay and how they grew up with the rivalry. I know a few more, like Ryan Beecher grew up going to games. Tristan Sinclair, who's come in at inside linebacker, and I think really impressed in these past few games. Shaw talks about them making a lot of mistakes, but also making a lot of explosive plays. and then Jack Richardson as well. Really cool story there. His parents, they actually got engaged at a Stanford game with a flyover back in 1991. Aww. So, any more thoughts on this game? What are we thinking?
I think that there's a chance, like you were saying, James, that it's going to be quite the spectacle. I don't want to say a great game, because a great game implies we have great teams playing. We don't have great teams playing in this game. I think it could be pretty competitive throughout, though, and both teams, this is what their whole season comes down to. Like, Cal could potentially get to a bowl game even without beating Stanford, but that doesn't mean very much to them. They need this axe. They have spent 9 years hearing about how Stanford is by far the best program in the Bay Area, and Justin Wilcox has slowly built up this team to be a defensive juggernaut, and this is not their best season. It's gone in a bad way fast for them over the course of the year, but I think that they feel like this is still their best chance in a long time to get the axe. And for Stanford, I'm going to go ahead and say it, the Notre Dame game's probably a wash. Notre Dame just beat a good Navy team by 32 points. They are probably going to come into Stanford Stadium and blow the Cardinal out of their own building. So this is where it all comes down to. And I think we could see a special performance from Davis Mills, who I think is the future of this program, and obviously threw for career high 504 yards against Washington State yesterday. Well, Cal, who's supposedly has a vaunted secondary, just allowed USC quarterback Keaton Slovis to throw for over 400 yards as well. So I think there's an opportunity for Stanford to light up the Cal secondary. I don't imagine Stanford's defense is going to be slowing down Cal as efficiently as other teams have been able to do. So I think we could be in for a pretty high scoring relative to big game standards and pretty exciting game. Just, keep in mind that you're watching two very bad football teams overall.
I think anyone who comes in to a rivalry game 100% confident they're going to win is just wrong. This is where the magic always happens when it comes to football. Rivalry games are never certain. Both teams always come in with just a little bit bigger chip on their shoulder. They got to win this one. For Stanford, obviously, they're trying to maintain. But for Cal, they're trying to continue to bring that axe back home. And so I think in order for either team to come out on top, it's going to take some skill, a lot of luck, and maybe a little bit of bad play on the part of the opponent.
I think you can count on some bad play from Cal. I think we got that part in the bag.
Wouldn't be surprised if we saw a little bit of that from Stanford as well, sadly. One last little note. Cal's Evan Weaver, inside linebacker, leading the country in tackles right now. Impact player for sure. On the other side, Casey Tuhill, 4th in the conference in sacks. So I think that linebacker battle might just determine this game if it does happen to be a defensive battle. On the other hand, could open up and be an offensive showcase. So a lot to look forward to in this week.
Yeah, but the biggest thing to look forward to is what happens before the big game, folks. If you are going to be on campus, you need to head out to Roble or Wilbur Field and check out the Ink Bowl. We, along with our Stanford Daily compatriots, will be taking on the vaunted Daily Californian flag football team. And, we've had a bit of a losing streak in this rivalry, but we've been working really hard. We're an IM playoff team. Came up short in IM, but, we have bigger fish to fry. We've been looking forward to this game for a long time. We're going to be playing with a lot of effort. And I said this before, if you're listening from the Daily Cal, please don't show up to this game if you're not ready to get rocked. Like, this is the type of opportunity. This is our showcase. Stanford football may be trending downwards fast, but the Stanford Daily is trending upwards fast. And unless Evan Weaver and his 150 tackles this year show up, I think that we've got a great chance to snap that streak. But, Cal may be snapping a streak in the big game as well. So perhaps a bit of a role reversal between Ink Bowl and big game.
This episode was produced by Chloe Barreau, Leily Rezvani, Smiti Mittal, and Daniel Martinez-Krams.
with help from Sean Reddy, Sally Egan, and King Jemison. To hear from other Stanford Daily podcasts, go to stanforddaily.com/podcasts.